Hello, everybody. My name is Noz Urbina, founder of Urbina Consulting and your host at the Omnichannel X podcast. I am here today to introduce my discussion with Ashley Faus. Ashley's been part of Omnichannel X events several times. According to her bio, the way she describes herself is a marketer, writer, and speaker by day, and a singer, actor, and fitness enthusiast by night. She has handled all aspects of marketing strategy and execution. She's done social media, content creation, demand generation, even event management. And she works crafting those high-level narratives, which resonate with audiences. And her passion is connecting different types of content with appropriate distribution channels. So you see what we did there? She has actually been quite successful and well received. She's quite an accomplished writer, speaker, and so on. She has been featured in publications like Time, Forbes, Marketing Profs, and The Muse. Additionally, she's delivered talks at various on various marketing topics at various events like Inbound, the Harvard Business Review, and of course, Omnichannel X. Ashley's experience, her insights, her philosophy, and her thoughts on corporate life, etiquette, and decision-making are all on a website that she puts out called consciouslycorporate.com. So you can check that out after the episode. And in this episode, we're going to talk together about the importance of simplifying content creation and tailoring it to the customer's needs and goals. We're going to talk about mapping from people's journeys and preferences to the right message and format for maximum impact. We also are going to discuss the importance of aligning content and messaging across different channels and funnel stages to create a seamless customer journey, but we're going to question the entire concept of the funnel. Ashley argues that the traditional linear funnel is inadequate for understanding consumer behavior, and I agree. People's intentions and actions are much more complex and varied. So she proposes a model that takes into account different intents and creating 4 intents, such as a buy intent, use intent, learn intent, and a get help intent. And we're going to talk about how these intents can be addressed through various types of content, and how about considering content in the context of the very next action you want people to take, and building appropriate calls to action to move people in the right direction. Of course, we're also going to round that off with a discussion about the potential for artificial intelligence to generate or facilitate the creation of various types of content to support the user journey and these different intents. So I hope you enjoy the episode. Let us know what you think by email, LinkedIn, or in the comments if you're watching this on a channel that allows comments. And we hope to see you on the next one. Hello, everybody. I'm so happy to be here with you and Ashley Faus. Ashley is, as I mentioned, a friend of OmniX, and I am so excited to have her back. Ashley, do you want to introduce yourself for the people who haven't heard about you before?
Sure. So I'm Ashley. I am a marketer, writer, and speaker by day, and a singer, actor, and fitness fiend by night. I'm currently the head of lifecycle marketing for the portfolio at Atlassian. And yeah, what I've been working on lately, and spoiler alert, Noz and I started talking before we hit the record button, and now we're like, we gotta hit record. We gotta just get all the thoughts. So continuation of that pre-discussion. I'm on a whole kick about intent, content intent, and audience intent. So excited to dive into that today.
Awesome. I'm a big fan. I think we're going to come at it from I'm anticipating a lot of violent agreement in this podcast, which may not be the most exciting listening, but I think that what will be exciting is that we will come at it from slightly different lenses. So I think we'll come out with a very nicely rounded conversation. So audience intent, we do like a ton of journey mapping. So we're looking at like audience personas and jobs to be done, and even talking about mapping the content or information type, because I'm a structured content guy. So we're doing content models and content typing, and mapping that to the intent. So when you say audience intent, what does that mean for you?
I'll actually zoom out a little bit, and since I'm coming at it more from a pure marketing standpoint, What marketers tend to do is they tend to map it to the funnel. And so they say there's awareness, consideration, purchase decision, whatever, the standard kind of three-phase funnel. And you and I have talked before about this, but I'll give just a slight bit of background. I actually think the funnel is a retrospective measurement tool, not a forward-looking strategy tool. Nobody wakes up in the morning and is like, today I shall be in the awareness phase, right? Like, haha, I'm considering things. People don't behave that way. So I like to frame up the audience journey in terms of a playground where people can go up, down, sideways, they can chart their own journey. So what that means for us as a marketer is that most of the time, people are not coming to us with a buy intent. Or if they are coming to us with a buy intent or a purchase intent, they're very specifically looking to purchase. And so the problem with the funnel is we think we have to force people into this buy intent, and we have to kind of like bait and switch them. And nobody wants to buy. Everybody's trying not to buy. Nobody wants to buy. Sales content, right?
Okay. How do we
And I
bamboozle them
actually
into
disagree
buying?
with that. Yeah, like I actually disagree with that, right? So if we think about this from an intent standpoint, both from the audience and from the brand perspective, there is a certain cohort of folks who do want to buy. And in that case, you should sell them. There's also people who generally are trying to understand or may stumble on a brand and be like, man, I like them. I trust them. I don't know. I just have an affinity for this brand, right? So there's a class of content that I would call either trust or affinity content. And from the brand side, the goal is to have people find it, discover it, share it, whatever, and generally have a sense of like, those guys, they know what they're talking about, right? There's a help intent or a remediation intent where it's like, man, I'm trying to troubleshoot a problem. I already have the product or I already have the service. How do I do that? How do I fix something? Or I'm trying to really understand like something's gone wrong. There's use intent, which this would align very nicely with the jobs to be done. I'm trying to solve this very specific problem and I'm Googling how to do, how to build a backlog with Jira software. Like clearly somebody's already aware, clearly somebody already has the product, they're trying to use it. It's not broken, like they're just trying to do a basic thing, right? So there's use intent content. And then there's learn intent content, which if we think about this in terms of the next action someone would take, they would think about this and be like, huh. Or maybe they would discuss it. They would go on a podcast and talk about it. Or maybe they would share it with their network and say, oh, I just read this super interesting article. Like it inspired these thoughts, right? It's learn intent content. So those are the intents that we think about. And you can see those are like the only one that is kind of mapped to the linear funnel would be the buy intent content. And in that case, it's basically all bottom of funnel in the traditional model. If you're doing a looping decision journey where there's basically that retention, cross-sell, upsell, expansion piece, the use intent content or the help intent content might be relevant as well. But again, it's just, you see that it starts to break when you start thinking about intent and trying to map it to the funnel. Like it just doesn't,
Yeah,
make sense.
I'm not a fan. I think it exists. I think we do go through a period of being unaware, and then a period of consideration, and then we decide like that at the highest conceptual level. I don't have a problem with. Is that the extent to which you should plan your content and structure your content? No.
Right.
So this kind of like those are my big three buckets, and I just throw everything at those three buckets. That I think is not good. So when I say jobs to be done, we actually mean it a lot broader. So we would have like highest level jobs. Like I'm a doctor and I want to set up a thriving practice by establishing my name in the community and providing the highest level of service to my patients. And then that breaks down into lower level jobs, which would map to the kind of things that you're talking about. Like I've got to, hire an assistant. I've got to write this prescription today. I've got all these, so there's all these different lower, more granular jobs. They're all, for us, that's all jobs to be done because they're things that I'm trying to accomplish. And then the question is, on my journey of accomplishing them, I will have various intents depending on what that journey is and who I am and what my background is, what my relationship to your brand is. And then how do we figure out where people are coming in, what intents do they have, and then use that to make some sort of gap analysis on our content. So, if we have been drinking the Kool-Aid of the all I need is these three big buckets, middle, top, middle, and bottom of funnel for too long, my content may be really patchy because no one's really been thinking about it the right way. So how do you help people kind of break down their current state and try to move in the right direction?
So one of the big things that I like to do from a super tactical level, two things, is ask, what is the very next action you want someone to take? And then what is the CTA associated with that action? So if the very next action is go into the product and do the thing they just explored. Okay, so you want them to use the product. They've just Googled, let's say, how to build a backlog in Jira software and doing project management stuff. The CTA should not be learn more. No, but I just learned. I learned, I understand now how to use. So the CTA should be start building your backlog or build a backlog, right?
Yes.
It shouldn't be learn more. It shouldn't be get started. It should be build a backlog. And so if you think about that next action, I want them to sign up for the product. Great.
Yes.
Here's these core features. Awesome. I love these features. How do I get the features? I'm not learning more. I'm not getting started.
Yeah.
It's start a trial, sign up for free, try Jira software, right? Great. I have features. I want to try the features. Try the features for free.
So that's perfect, because in fact, you're giving me vivid flashbacks to journey mapping workshops. I don't know if we've ever talked about this, but when we talk about a journey and content, we simplify it down to questions over time. Like,
okay.
I'm a human being, and I want to get over there. I have that objective. How do I get started? Then I have my initial round of questions. My unknown unknowns are popping up. Like this, I have no idea how you evaluate this type of enterprise software. I don't know how you choose a mortgage. Whatever your whatever your initial questions are, and then as you learn, new questions will reveal themselves. And what I really like about what you're doing is you're referring to something that it's actually telling me we got to get more explicit about this, is that as we're teaching about journey mapping, we say the thing that moves you to the next stage. Like if you imagine a journey map with rows and columns.
Yep.
I've got what I'm doing, and I've got my goals, and then I've got the questions. We're talking about the content planning stuff. And at the bottom, we have metrics and CTAs. And we always tell people the CTAs and the metrics are telling you how you tell and how you move people along the columns. Like that's how you measure progress. So, because like if they don't have never had a journey, they've never thought about user intent, they've never mapped their content out this way, they're just chucking it out in those three big buckets, then this kind of thinking about, all right, so what are the stages that this person is going through informationally, content-wise? And then how do we know that they're moving forward? Like, do we chuck a blog out there and hope that they move forward? Or, as you're saying, do we put something there and we either algorithmically by watching behaviors, or even better, can we pop an actual button that says, when you click this, I know you've taken a step forward and I can now address you in a different way with different messaging?
Yeah. Well, and the other nice thing about this, when you're very explicit about your intent and the CTAs and the very next action, you don't have to do this bait and switch of like, we're going to trick people into buying. Learn more sometimes it's like we're marketers trying to trick people. We're like, haha, learn more. And then it's like, buy something. And it's like, you told me I was going to learn. And so if you give explicit CTAs where you say, try the product for free or sign up or contact sales versus read another article, watch a demo video, explore the blog, great. If somebody hits that contact sales button, when they in fact do fill out the form to contact sales, that actually is a hot lead or a marketing qualified lead or whatever term you're using, or a prospect at that point, because they have very explicitly chosen the contact sales when you gave them the opportunity to not contact sales. So if they don't contact sales, great. You don't need to pretend or cajole them into contacting sales. It's right there. They have two options. buy, not buy. If
Oh,
they choose buy, they know very explicitly they're going down a buy intent path. And then that also makes it easy for you from a content perspective to sell them something. You don't have to hem and haw and write these long paragraphs about in today's ever-evolving world. No, I've
you said you wanted to
intentionally
buy.
picked a buy button. Sell me. It's
So
better for everyone. The audience loves it. The
this is
salespeople
awesome.
love it. Marketers love it. We all love it.
This is totally resonating with me because the emphasis we're always talking about is relationships. Are you a
Yeah.
good relationship partner?
Yeah.
Bait and switch is not being a good relationship partner. The kind of like treating people as a data point to shove along a spreadsheet is not being a good relationship partner. Actually understanding the other human being and what their, what the reciprocity of this relationship is, and
Yeah.
learning about them, that's being a good relationship partner. And the oh man, I lost it. So that bit, which I love. And you're saying about the putting the right call to action. Oh yes. And we've also said that content is a product, and content marketers especially need to think about their work as content, as information products. These are content products which we are designing for people for their market requirements that will deliver them value so that they will give us money eventually. And bringing like what you're literally saying about make the call to action button clear. That's like UX design 101. So if you go into the content designers or the product designers, they'll always tell you like, don't have a button where I don't know really what I'm going to get on the other end of that button. That's bad product design, and it's bad marketing design and content
Yeah.
design.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting too, in that vein, when you're forced to say like what specifically is the next action someone's going to take, you start to realize that assets themselves do not have an intent. And this happens frequently where someone's like, we need awareness content, so make a blog. Oh, okay. That correlation, that doesn't make any sense. Like a blog is not inherently awareness content. Assets, videos are not inherently buy intent content or bottom of funnel content, right? Like there's this idea
Or social
that,
posts.
yeah, social posts are top of funnel. What? No, you can share demos of products. It's so funny that this is actually a perfect example. I'm on a buyer's journey right now. I don't even know which funnel portion I'm in because I came to it basically with a buy intent, but I don't actually have budget yet. So I'm like vetting it. So I guess I'm in consideration, even though I'm like very intent on buying. I'm just trying to figure out which thing I buy. Anyway, but the way I got into this, and this actually dovetails nicely with another huge topic in this space around AI, right? So have started a new team. I know, I'm like, I got you. I've just moved into a new role a couple months ago. One of the things that we're working on is repurposing content. So taking our live event content, breaking it into snippets, blogs, etc. Right? And I was like, this seems like a use case that's great for AI, generating clips. Like a human should not be going through and scrubbing a video and marking down timestamps and editing. No, dude, a machine can do this. So I am working with somebody on my team and I said, go explore these tools. In the meantime, I'm connected to somebody on LinkedIn. They just launched a product. And so they posted the sizzle reel of this product on LinkedIn. And it was literally hitting every single point. It's like, do you have long form content? Does it take a human too long to edit it? Introducing our product, we generate it. And then they like hit the features, right? It's like a 2-minute video.
Yep.
It's very much product related, very much buy intent content. And I saw that and I was like, I need to put that on my list. I'm not in a place right now where I can explore it. But as soon as I was, I put that on the list and I said, hey, I saw this tool on LinkedIn, go figure it out, right? In that case, again, where am I in the funnel? Oh, well, see, it was top of funnel because you weren't in a place to buy it, but we made you aware. Oh, okay, but I was already in the awareness of the problem space. I was actually already in, I'm going to buy a tool to solve this. I just don't have time right now to evaluate a specific set of tools. And then when I did, I basically dropped somebody on my team directly into the bottom of the funnel and said, find me a tool to buy.
So I think I want to double click on what you said earlier, because I think it was really important and we need to re-underline it, which is this misconception of a format has an intent. Or what did you call it? A tactic?
Oh yeah, an asset
An
has a
asset.
specific intent already.
Yes.
Like there's an inherent intent.
Yes. So which is even, yeah, so an asset type, or what I would call like a format. So
Yeah.
you have a video, a blog, a social post, a white paper, a brochure, blah, 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 blah. You have all your what in our world would be top level content types or information product types. We're also working through the same thing all the time of these things. That was that word that you use. It may not mean what you think it means. So it just people will not actually look at what is going on inside a type. So the types get very mishmashed. So they're chucking out white papers and brochures and blog posts. And like, so if you imagine you're on the receiving end of this, I subscribe to your blog. Oh, heavens to Betsy. Then I get all these freaking posts about all these different things I really don't care about. Whereas if you had not thought that the format blog was what I cared about, I don't wake up in the morning and go, I love blogs. Or videos or whatever the formats are, you're coming in looking with some sort of objective. I have a job to be done. I have a job that I want to get done. I'm gonna work my way through it. So you have this job of working through these videos. How do I figure that out? What software even exists? You already knew there was AI. Maybe somebody else didn't know that. So whatever, we have to move through that thing. And we have messages. We have, our product can do this. Did you know that this technology exists? Whatever the messages are. And those messages may exist in any channel or format. And this idea that the message goes with a certain channel or format, like we only say this on social. Why and how? Like what is the point of it? Why not match where the person is and what they're after and what their interests are to the right message and give them, options. Maybe they want to watch a video, maybe they want to read. Some people don't, I'm a video guy, some people are readers. I don't dig on reading. So it's just it's a matter of mapping people and preferences and interests to the message that you're talking about. The format for me is the last thing that you want to be bringing into this when you're mapping out this whole plan.
Yeah, and the other thing too is thinking about which messages resonate in which, channels, and then from a distribution standpoint, how long will they resonate? So this is another thing. Again, I'm like very in this mindset right now because we have a big event coming up at the end of April. It's the Atlassian team conference. We've got speakers coming in, we've got products, we've got thought leadership. It's an excellent event and there is a ton of content, right? So naturally, we want to extend the shelf life of that content. Panels are not a great way to they're not a good format for on-demand viewing. And they're also pretty terrible for slicing and dicing into short snippets because most people don't say things concisely on a panel. Number one, they meander a bit. Number two, there's too much context. There's a lot of, well, as Noz mentioned earlier, right? Even in this podcast, you and I started talking before we hit record and we jumped right in, which is great. But the first thing we both did was say, let me step back and give context about what we were talking about. So that if you want to cut this into snippets, you can cut that and you have context. And instead of me saying, well, as Noz and I were talking about earlier and just picking up, and it's like, well, wait, but what were you talking about earlier? I don't know what you're referencing. Or if I say, oh yeah, in a previous podcast, Noz and I talked about the playground. So let's just agree on that. If you didn't listen to that podcast, you have no idea what the playground is. So I took a step back and I said, let me level set about the playground. Now let's continue this conversation. In general, panels, that doesn't happen, right? What panels are actually great for is writing a blog post about 5 key takeaways from the panel with, Noz, Ashley, and whoever else, right? And then giving those takeaways, and maybe you pull a quote or two. But they're great for live viewing. They're not great for on-demand viewing or for video snippets. So how do you think about the investment of what to capture and what to repurpose and what to use those for? That's a completely separate conversation than the intent of the panel, because the intent of the panel, we've got some that are customer stories where they're talking about how they switched from one of our competitors to us. And so, of course, from a product marketing standpoint and a demand gen standpoint, they're like, these are excellent switching customer stories. Like, this is perfect, right? We need a video clip of this big customer saying, here's why I switched from competitor to Atlassian.
They're not
The
going to say that.
reality is, they're not going to say it that way. They're going to take 5 minutes and blather on and chase a rabbit. What if I gave you a takeaways where I pull in those quotes and you end up with 3 big quotes of here's why big brand, and big brand switched. And if it's cost or efficiency or consolidation or ease of use, whatever the thing is, right? I can turn that into a carousel for you. I can turn that into a sales deck for you. I can turn that into a, one pager. That's much more consumable and actually what you want, which is that social proof of these big brands saying, here's the 3 reasons they switched. There's no way I'm going to get that for you from a panel.
So that's perfect, like as an example of why we have to think about and plan omni-channel and audience intent based.
Yes.
Who is our audience? What are we trying to address in terms of messaging and to what pain points? Like we always, when I say questions over time about the journey, like if you can't match your content to somebody actually having that question, why is it there?
Yeah.
And then allowing for a life cycle. So this, because we have the customer journey or the audience journey, I shouldn't say customer journey, the audience journey of I'm trying to get my thing done, and that might involve buying your product. So you better show up at the right time with the right content. But we as the content producers, we've been spending so long getting to the asset as if it was the end point. Like, we got the panel, it's done. We got the brochure, we created the manual, we got the blog out, as opposed to like as if that was the end. And what you're talking about AI is not at all, it's not new, but at least now it's so much easier to take those, what we thought were endpoints, and envision their role within the overall life cycle of the content. So I have the message, my product's better, big brand switch to me. So, that's one of your big messages that you're trying to get out of this panel. It may be birthed in the panel, but then it's going to evolve. Like that was its embryo, and then it's going to split and divide and multiply and evolve into lots of other incarnations and representations of that message over time. I'm finding so many people in very large companies really struggle with this life cycle thinking. Like, okay, what are we creating now, and then what is how do we make these assets like, how do we get more leverage out of them? How do we create a plan and a model where our people can say, okay, you got a panel. Did you know that you could make a dozen things out of a panel for all these different formats and ways that you could get these key messages out? Key messages, endorsements, quotes, like whatever. Like there's all sorts of assets that you can mine out of a panel transcript. Top pain
Well, and I think
points,
this,
or
I think
whatever.
this
Like,
goes back. Yeah, and I think this actually goes back to the intent, right? Where the people don't think that you could get a social post out of a panel about switching from a competitor to Atlassian, because a social post is top of funnel, and if somebody switched, that's middle of funnel, right? So
yes.
it's even that sense of where if you get into this mindset that a certain asset type or a certain channel only has a certain funnel stage, right? Like not even intent, it's like funnel stage where you say, social media is top of funnel. Our blog is middle of funnel and the product tour is bottom of funnel. Like
Makes my neck itch when you say that.
I just struggle so much with that, right? But if that's the mindset, that you're in, or if your team is primarily responsible for traditional, like brand, for example, right? Brand is considered top of funnel or awareness, right? Brand can be middle of funnel or bottom of funnel, right? Like if in the consideration set, if you've done a good job of branding, and so the only companies that are in the consideration set, like you basically get yourself into that short list because of the branding. Like it's a weird thing. It's almost a weird thing for me to try to do one-to-one, but like I feel like I do this language translation where I'm like, okay, in the playground, right? You've got content depths, you've got intent, you've got assets, you've got channels. All of those get mapped. None of that just like inherently exists on its own. As marketers, we structure it in a way that makes a smart, seamless, helpful journey for our audience and for our business, right? We're not doing this altruistically. Yes, we care about our audience, but again, we're a business. Again, if I want to go do altruistic things, I've got a separate space for that, right? But
mutually beneficial relationship.
I'm trying to make money. We're trying to have a reciprocal relationship, right? Where the audience gets a solution to their problem. The company that is selling that solution gets money because they have matched problems and solutions for humans, right? But when you get in this mindset that like, I'm the brand team, so I do top of funnel. Oh, I'm the demand gen, so I do bottom of funnel, right? You can kind of assign, you need to have roles and responsibilities. You can assign teams to that, but it still breaks if they're not all working together and they're not understanding that it's actually about the intent. And channels don't have an inherent intent. Assets don't have an inherent intent. And so if you say, okay, blog team, you do awareness,
so then the question is, how do we get this sometimes thousands of people to around the world sometimes in the kind of companies that we're talking about, or even if there's 5 of you, even if there's 5 of you in the same building, how do you all kind of get together and discuss that structure that you need to bring to the table because the channels and the formats don't bring it for you? And how do you then work against that plan, turn that into an actionable plan? Like I'm interested. So where have you had, like, well, I have my own opinions, but so have you had success with changing that? And what are kind of tools or takeaways that you have felt have added value in transitioning people from one set mindset to another? And do you have any before and after changeovers to stories of people who came to the playground from the funnel mindset?
Yeah, it's interesting. I actually think that I think we're going through this evolution now. And I think that people like me and you, right, where you get brought in as a consulting to help reshape this. In my case, I'm internal. This is like what my team does. My team helps act as the connectors and the bridge builders and the translators among the other teams. And so
do you own journeys then? Do you own this, or do you facilitate them doing it?
I generally am doing more facilitation, and then I'm owning certain parts of the execution because, you can't just sit outside it and be like, oh, yes, this is what you need to do, right? So my team does own certain parts of the execution. We don't own the entire journey. And actually, I mean, we're big enough that no one owns the entire journey. It's impossible when you have the portfolio size that we have and the number of teams who are involved. So the big thing that we need help with, which is where a lot of, where my team helps, is with those handoffs. Like there are certain teams, like again, if you're demand gen or sales, pretty much you are exclusively doing by intent content. Like if you're doing sales, your whole job is to buy, get people to buy, right?
Yeah.
And yes, in general, brand teams tend to do more either learn intent content or like trust and affinity content. I want people to feel like they have a connection with us. I want them to like us. I want them to trust us. I want them to feel that we're smart, right? That tends to sit in brand teams. But if you've got brand up here saying one thing and you've got sales down here saying something completely different, that is going to undermine on both sides, right? So you need all of the teams to be working together. So in my case, the way this is working is basically that teams like mine are acting as that bridge. So I actually just had a perfect example of this that came up the other day. I posted about it on LinkedIn. We've got, an SEO team that is working through a lot of kind of programmatic SEO, but because of all the AI generated content, Google is kind of starting to crack down, and they've added, with basically the perspectives tab, they're placing more emphasis on who is the subject matter expert that is authoring or contributing to this content, so that they know that it has the authority, the expertise, the experience, and the trustworthiness, right? The EET. So our SEO team is now trying to be more strategic about partnering with our subject matter experts.
Yes.
And so a lot of those, and a lot of those experts, because we sell to a lot of technical audiences, sit in product or engineering. So the teams that actually have the relationship with those subject matter experts are actually our product marketers. They work very closely to help shape the product, obviously doing product launches, etc. So you've got SEO over here saying, here's what the market is currently talking about. Here's all the H1s, the H2s, here's the keyword set. This is how people find this content. Then you've got the subject matter experts who are like, well, but this is what they should be talking about, or this is how we're talking about it, or we're actually pushing the envelope. And you've got product marketing kind of sitting in the middle being like, oh, okay, but SEO, like the outline doesn't totally match what we're trying to say the conversation should go, right? So they pinged me and they were like, how do we bridge the gap between what SEO says they need and what the subject matter expert wants to say? And so that's a scenario where I'm able to come in and say, well, here's how you can shape that. You can say the pitfalls of this traditional thinking, or say, here's the common questions. Here's what you should be asking. That gets you the SEO piece, but it also gets you the subject matter expertise. And in the case where we've got a product that can solve this, or we're building the product this way, then you can say, and that's why we included this capability, or that's why you need a product that includes this feature or this capability in order to move beyond the traditional knowledge. And so that whole piece, and so now I've got a couple of people who are like, yes, okay, I see it. I see the SEO, I see the thought leadership, I see, the product marketing, I see the asset type, right? And I say, and the way that you can get this connection from the subject matter expert is they actually just delivered a talk at, AWS reInvent. Pull that transcript and that'll tell you the way that we're focusing on this, right? So it's currently not scalable. Like, I'm trying to figure out how to scale this, but having teams where their gold and their remit is to be that connector. I'm not gold on how many signups I specifically drive, or how much revenue I specifically influence, or pipeline I specifically generate, or how many keywords I rank for, right? I'm a contributor to all of those other goals.
Yes.
And then for them, right, in my peer feedback, they say, Ashley helped us achieve X. Ashley's team contributed to Z.
So this is why we keep inviting you back.
You have to have those teams that go across and aren't beholden to just the one metric for one intent, because that's how you end up with the silos.
Yes, this is why you're part of the OmniX family, because we keep trying to talk about this idea of that there has to be facilitator roles. There have to be dot connectors. Like, my book was connecting the dots between business brand and benefits. This dot connecting role and the ability to bring together multiple disciplines is so fundamental to making any good content happen, and then an order of magnitude more for omni-channel content.
Right.
So we're it's funny because I'm having flashbacks here because we're putting together strategies for multiple big brands right now, and we're kind of drawing this box going, you need a role here. You need this dot connector facilitator because you have been planning based on assets and channels and funnel for so long. There's nobody who has the visibility nor the remit to bring this all together. And I think, and I would like, let us know in the comments or email us if I'm wrong. I think that a lot of the people who listen to this podcast, and a lot of people come on Channel X, are either in roles that are maybe not officially like yours. Hopefully they are, but they are kind of being tasked with this or are trying to get this done. They are seeing the gap and they're trying to fill it. Maybe it's not officially on, like that's not why HR hired them. Maybe maybe the role isn't defined properly, or the team is not defined properly. But they've established, dear listener, that it needs doing. Somebody has to come in, take a broader view, think omni-channel, think informational content lifecycle and audience journey, and be able to bring that messaging together with some tools and templates and techniques, and saying, you've never done this before. I'm not just going to tell you make omni-channel good now, because that's going to be meaningless for you. In the same way, we can't do that to our customers. We can't say, decide. We have to help. We have to internally, as you're doing, reach out, educate, explain, justify, sell the benefits, demonstrate that this can be done, and that there are repeatable methodologies for doing it. I think you're living the only path. I think the only way in a modern enterprise to do this is to have a role in your position who for the love of God, hopefully has the management support to do it properly. But
Yeah. Well,
somebody's got to do
and
it,
to be
even if it's off the side of
clear,
their desk.
yeah, and to be clear, like I'm also fortunate that I have such smart, capable partners elsewhere in the organization, right?
Yeah,
I'm not the only person who thinks this way. Um, the role, having it structured as a role where the dot connector and the team and all of that, but like I've got super smart colleagues who have been doing this in their space and their scope of influence for years. So it's not, and I think this is true in a lot of big companies. There's probably, to your point, people who are doing this in their pocket or their sphere
yeah,
of ownership. But especially for companies that are trying to move up market and trying to move from selling point products to selling solutions. And so when you're trying to go wall to wall, you're trying to tell that comprehensive narrative. You can't have just a single person or a single team within a single product portfolio or a single area of the craft
yeah,
trying to do this. You can't have just one smart product marketer in one portion of the portfolio, or one smart SEO person in one portion of the portfolio, right? You've got to have, and again, people ask me, they're like, what does a head of lifecycle marketing comma portfolio do? And I'm like, well, it's a little bit of an oddball title, but what it's trying to get at is that I go across all of the different markets and all of the portfolios. So if you see you've got a product marketer in Jira Software, you've got a SEO person who focuses very specifically on ITSM, which stands for Information Technology Service Management, or you've got, an email marketer who runs the nurture programs for Confluence, right? They can still think holistically about that journey, but they're very focused on, I gotta drive open rates, or I gotta drive adoption rates for Confluence or for Jira or for Jira Service Management, right? I'm ambivalent to which product wins, right? Like I win if all of our products win. If Atlassian wins, I win. And so you do have to have that mix of people who, if the company wins, or if all the products win, or if any of the products win,
yes,
we all win, right? And then you do have to have the people who are saying, okay, I'm going to drive to this specific product. So you have
yeah.
to have that balance.
If they,
But
yeah, and you touched a very hot button there, which is if it's done, and that, and I'm sorry to any of you who are listening who are in that situation, if the incentives are not set up properly, so that the organization isn't trying to get everyone to get the whole brand to move forward together. You get people like, I'm spending my SEO budget to fight my neighbors like down the hall their content. Like
Yeah.
that happens. It's a nightmare.
Oh yeah. Well, and I've seen this happens in agencies all the time, right? Where account managers, if their team doesn't have bandwidth to take the work, they'll just turn it down instead of giving it to another account manager. And I'm just like, why would you not give the work to your coworker? And it's like, well, I'm the one who works that deal, or they reached out to me, or it's my relationship. And it's just like, are you kidding me? Like, no, the company wins if you bring the work in. And if your team doesn't have bandwidth, or you don't have the right specialists for this particular ask, and your teammate has it, send it over. And that's another thing that I will say again. And I know I'm very fortunate. One of the values at Atlassian is play as a team. And so I'm very fortunate that all of my colleagues are like, listen, I don't have bandwidth, but this is a perfect opportunity for you. Or this opportunity or this message doesn't resonate, or our product doesn't solve this, but
Yeah.
hey, your product does. We're getting these questions all the time. Here's how we've tried to answer them, but like, I really think you guys, this is a perfect opportunity for you. And so I am so fortunate that people come to me, or I can go to them and say, hey, this is what I'm seeing, or this is where, I think this is an opportunity. How do we work together on this? But I've definitely seen in the past, or talking with other colleagues like outside, that are just like, oh yeah, if we don't have bandwidth, we just don't do it. And I'm like, what? You don't give it to another team? Like, why not?
So we're in the home stretch here. I wanna put some concrete words on this. So I think we've talked about, or we've described the need for the essential roles. We talk about content strategy and content design, or content experience design being central functions. Also, the terms, and what I'm giving you, dear listener, is like a kind of a shopping list, or also a bit of a maturity model, in the sense that one thing that you can have a content strategist or a content designer or a content experience designer, whatever you want to call them, but this role, which is maybe a little bit more boots on the ground, connecting with people, making this happen. And then at a more, if you are in a position to take this wider and more enterprise, talk about, enterprise editorial boards, or, cross-functional, cross-disciplinary editorial boards that go, what are we making? Are your colleagues outside of marketing producing tons of blogs and thought leadership content, but you just didn't even know that those assets were there because they're not marketing assets? So that, like, can you start to think about, rather than just everyone in the company should use my stuff because it's the best, or can you think about it like within the company, reciprocal relationships? Where can you, in the same way we said a format is not an intent, neither is a source department. There's going to be tons of knowledge and assets and stuff underneath your roof that if you actually open to the idea of investigating, it might be valuable, especially now we're talking about with AI. It was written as a very technical knowledge post. Can ChatGPT lighten up the jargon for me and turn it into a more newbie learning piece like this? There's all these opportunities I think what we didn't get much time to talk about it in terms of AI. I think it's, people can envisage what we've always been talking about. You could do this before. Like, you could take the assets, right, restructure them, rewrite them, transform them. Now, it shouldn't be a completely automatic process, in my opinion. I think that you want to have, for probably the next generation at least of AIs, or the current generation at least of AIs, you always need a human on the loop, like checking everything that has been created. Like, you do not want to be in one of those positions where you're the one who let an AI say something stupid. So we're talking about like AI team members. You have a junior writer who takes the transcripts and rewrites the top 5 takeaways, and then you have a senior writer who's a human being who goes, yeah, nice draft, I'll take that. Or they invite the AI into the room and say, let's brainstorm ideas. Like, if these are our personas, what might their pain points be? Or look at this web page, and given these pain points, which ones are we not addressing? Or tell me what the gaps are in this white paper. AI is great at all that stuff to kind of play off of, bounce off of. So including AI at different points in your workflow, talking to your colleagues, having some sort of shared journey map. I may commit a cardinal sin earlier where I said the journey, and I always wrap people's knuckles for saying the journey, because there's so many journeys that the audience goes on. But at least trying to put journeys in one place where we can talk about them and look at them together as teams. I think those, for me, those are like what I would like people to take away from your message today. And I'm so grateful for you coming and sharing it. Is there anything you wanted to add, where people can learn more about you, where we could follow up? Do you like LinkedIn conversations? What are people's possible next steps?
Yeah, LinkedIn is a great spot. Occasionally I'm on Twitter. I know we're supposed to call it X. Nobody knows what X is. We're calling it Twitter. So
Done.
in theory, I'm there, but LinkedIn is the best place. I post frequently, and I generally try to respond to all the comments. So yeah, connect with me on LinkedIn. That's the best place.
Awesome. And didn't you just win some sort of recognition on LinkedIn?
I did. I got the blue top voice badge. It's very fancy. So yes, I just got the blue top voice badge, which is exciting.
Congratulations. Awesome.
Thank you.
Okay. So thank you so much, Ashley. It's always a pleasure of someone who's talking experience instead of theory, and also validates that I'm not making all this stuff up. There are brands, people who work at brands who actually get it done. So thank you very much.
Thank you.